Good morning and welcome to Ed's World, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I am Jay Edgar, and I am joined today by the former owner of probably one of the funnier parody accounts I've ever seen in my life, who's now come out with her real name and decided to grace us with just as much of an opinionated level of snark as before. So, Linda, welcome to Ed's World.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with you.
I'm excited to have you. I've been looking forward to this since before you'd put your real name onto your Twitter account. So,
Ooh. Thanks. Hmm.
before we get started here too much, first thing I want to say is for those of you who are listening back on the audio platforms, if you check this out over on the video platforms, you will see that this is going to be one of the first episodes of Ed's World where I will be using visual aids. Most of you have seen me do this on my solo shows before, but I'm working with OBS to try and integrate it into the podcast as well because that's some extra production that we can use here. But I do want to take a second here and talk just a little bit about some of you saw what I was complaining about on Twitter before and some of the things that have been going on with my YouTube channel. I was very afraid for a while that I was on the edge of being shut down. A few weeks ago, everything that I uploaded was automatically uploaded into private mode. It just started doing that, and it did that for 4 shows. I could go back in and change it to public mode, but I couldn't do it from the upload screen. I actually had to physically get the video uploaded and change that. Before I caught that, I've lost almost a day of analytics at that point, so that was pretty bad for me because most people expect to see everything on Tuesdays and Fridays. And then it appeared this past week that or these past couple weeks rather, that I've been completely unsearchable. And I called attention to it, and I tried to post links out everywhere so other people could access the material. And then all of a sudden, it seems like I'm getting recommended and I'm searchable again. So I think I got hit by the adpocalypse, and I got my views cut for a wrong thing. So if you think your channel's too small to do that, this is only 110 subscribers over here, and you're not too small to do that. They are going to be watching out for you, and you should always be branching out to alternative media platforms. And we'll talk about those in just a second. We do have a full show for everybody today. We actually got up to the 6 topic mark again, so go over briefly what it is we'll be going through. Looks like we'll hear in a second why this is important, why I put this at the top, but everybody's favorite New York socialist decided to make a comparison to what was going on at the border, starting in the Obama administration and continuing on today, to a concentration camp. She got backlash from both sides from this, and we will talk about that and more coming up. There has been some escalation in the Iran situation, and while neither of us are really foreign policy experts, there's been a lot of talk over on the ground over here about what this could all mean, especially going into election year. So we will talk about the social media and the public's reaction to all of this. As we always do on Ed's World, we will be talking about 2020 and the clown car that is the Democratic primaries. So we've got some news on Warren because she seems to be tearing everything up. We got a viral photo of Elizabeth Warren sitting behind Bernie Sanders, so we'll talk about that. And Biden was accused with working with racist segregationists back at the beginning of his tenure, so we will talk a bit about that. Donald Trump kicked off his campaign this past week in Florida to a packed crowd in the Florida heat, so we will talk about what happened there and how many people attended into that. It was announced that ICE is going to start arresting and deporting illegals, and there have been a couple of raids coming up, including one that was announced for one day and happened the day before, so we'll talk a bit about that. And Swalwell and Candace Owens had a little bit to say about that, so we'll talk about what they had to say. And finally, a woman who has a book coming out next week came forward 20 years later to accuse the president of rape. This will be the 4th accusation that has been brought against him, and it disappeared out of the news almost instantly as soon as it came out. We will talk a bit about what happened there. It is going to be all of this and more on Ed's World. Thanks for watching this show over on YouTube and on BitChute as well, because we're not censored on BitChute. Everything is open over there. If you are on either one of these platforms, make sure you reach down and you hit that like button. That tells YouTube what people should be watching and helps us get recommended. If you're listening back to this on an audio platform, thank you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you like what you hear. That helps us move up the charts. And if you are on iTunes, make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and a good review. That always helps us move up Apple's algorithm. As always, this show is available on the Freedom Scoop Media Group, along with other great podcasts like The Generational Gap and Stephen Ignoramus's daily show and his conversation show, Call Me Ignorant. We have picked up some new writers there. We're starting to get some content for that, and we're always on the lookout for more. If you know somebody who wants to write for the site, please email me at edsblogtwitter@gmail.com. After one lengthy introduction, it is time to find out the most important part about Ed's world. So, Linda, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Well, hey, thanks again, Ed, for having me on. I'm really excited. But I'm a 42-year-old female. I have 2 children. I've been pretty open about my life recently. But I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And I'm a transplanted Yankee, born and raised in Utica, New York. I'm a hospice nurse. I enjoy that. I have been since my mom passed in 2017, and I got a pretty good group of ladies come and help me care for her, and felt like that was what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So that's how that got started. And also on the side, this is the first time I'm talking about it tonight. I also run an affiliate website called Budget Nerds, and I'm an affiliate with mostly Amazon, but I do other stores and things like that. So I can get you really good deals on crap that you buy every day or crap that you might think about trying. And I think when we close the store or close the show, I'll tell you the website and all that stuff where you can find us. But that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I'm nothing like my persona on the Twitter, just so you know. I can't wear heels at all, not even a pump. So the whole stiletto thing, it actually came from at Emily 30 Red. She's an author. She's a beautiful human being, but we got to talking one day about how she saw some of her followers, and she just kind of dubbed me the Stiletto Ninja, and I just took it from there. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, I want to take a second talking about your Twitter account, because it is actually still marked as @AOC, because I was introduced to you because you were doing a parody account at first, which was absolutely hilarious. I'm a little sad the parody has gone away, but with the purge of parody accounts, I can't blame you for doing that. But tell us a little bit how you decided that you wanted to do that.
Well, it's interesting. I originally joined Twitter around the time of the Kavanaugh hearings, his confirmation hearings. And I started with another parody I won't talk about, but when the shenanigans and things started with Jim Acosta and what's her name? April Ryan. You remember her?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had April Ryan's attitude. Anyway, things kind of died down with them, and I couldn't really take her any further. So I'm like, who is in the news and just ridiculous? And it was just before election time with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So I'm like, perfect. I'm going to be able to, she's just opens her mouth and she's material, right? So I did that for a couple of months, and honestly, it was literally everything that came out of her mouth was just parody worthy, and it honestly became a little exhausting for me, and I couldn't really fit anything else into my life, which is tough because I work and I have 2 kids, and stuff needs to be done. So I unfortunately and fortunately dropped her. But honestly, that was probably the most fun I've ever had in recent memory. Honestly, she is a walking parody at this point. So no parody is needed. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And but it was time to put her away.
Well, it was just in time too. I mean, I know Jim Acosta's parody account, which I follow as well.
Yes.
I do want to get that guy on the show. I don't know who is behind that, but I want to get that guy on the show. But
Oh,
yeah, I
he's
know he.
awesome. Yeah, he's awesome. Do you mind if we say his at look at me one? He's
Yeah, go
everybody
ahead.
needs to follow him. He's hilarious.
Well, he got suspended too for being a
Yes.
parody account for a little while.
Hmm. Yeah, he kind of introduced me. He because we were followers of each other when I was with Ryan, and when I started AOC, he kind of got my name out there and got me going. So I couldn't be anywhere without him. He's hilarious though, even in person. We've chatted privately on the Twitter, and yeah, he's just hilarious, and he does such a good job of a parody.
He does. He even gave me my birthday shout out in complete character.
Oh, that is so awesome! Oh God, I snorted. Sorry.
Oh, that happens.
Hmm.
We're as close to live as you can possibly be without actually live streaming because my processor won't handle it. So
Gotcha.
anything goes.
Yeah.
Well, with that all being said, I think it's time to move into the genius that got you to where you were on Twitter here, because that's going to be our first topic, of course.
Yeah.
And that is the fact that this past week, Representative of New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, did an Instagram live stream in which the first thing that she said was that we are running concentration camps on the border. Now,
Yeah.
Cortez caught fire almost immediately from this from people from both sides, and her first defense was that she was using the dictionary definition, which I did in my solo video on this, of concentration camp, which conveniently includes the words refugee. But if you use a word like that, that's so charged in our language at this point that it's meant to make you think of a certain thing. So, what did you think when you saw all of this started to unfold? Because this is still a developing situation.
Oh, sure. And it's not like we haven't been called Nazis for the past 3 years anyway. But,
Right.
my immediate thing is, of course, you immediately think of the Holocaust with concentration camps, just as, the swastika has been around for what I think 15,000 years ago was the first documented. But it's associated now with Nazi Germany. So when you say swastika, you don't think about 15,000 years ago. You're thinking about Nazi Germany.
Hmm.
And the exact same thing as the concentration camps. I know if you look up the definition, depending on the dictionary, you're going to find something similar to what's going at the border, but it's associated with, one of the worst, I mean, the genocide of almost an entire race in a country. What are you that's just, that was beyond what I even felt like she was capable of doing. There's no way to not associate a concentration camp with Nazi Germany.
Well, apparently there was, because that was, again, that was the first thing that she said, and that was the first thing that everyone else jumped to as well when we
Hmm.
came to say it too. Is no, this is going to be a specific Holocaust reference, especially because you use the words "never again."
Hmm.
Now, I am no fan of what is going on down at the border, and I will be the first one to come out and say that, because there's a lot of bad things that are going on with that. That's some of the things that we're trying to be curbed with this emergency fund that Trump called for way back in January already, that still hasn't been, that it was first dismantled, and now Congress won't vote on that. There have been several bills that have come through Congress to get funding down there for all of this in order to make sure that we have enough beds, that we can get hygiene products for these people, we
Hmm.
can get medical attention for them, and they continually keep getting voted down. One of the stipulations to ending the emergency order was that we actually had to limit the amount of beds that were at the border at the time. So, I mean, this does not squarely fall on the president, and I know that Cortez is trying to make us think that this squarely falls on the president.
Well, yeah, everything does pretty much. We keep talking about how where the Constitution and where the real power lies. Congress isn't doing a whole lot. They're either not voting or they're voting things down. And I appreciate that we're in the age of social media, but I certainly like to see our congressmen and women on social media a little bit less, and maybe um, in their chairs voting a little bit more. Um, there's got to be somewhere in the middle. And no, I'm not happy with what's going on at the border either. But that's how we get things changed. Write a bill, pass a bill, get it signed into law.
I have an interesting question since you brought that up and brought the fact that they're on social media so much out there. Um, do you think social media has changed the way that we do business as far as bills in Congress? And do you think that's part of the paradigm shift that we see there? Because I think a part of the reason that we don't see anything passing through Congress right now is the extreme right on the Senate passes a bill that dies in the House, and the extreme left in the House passes a bill that dies in the Senate. So they can't compromise because they'll have to go home and it'll get blasted all over social media, and then
Yeah.
they won't be welcome at home anymore. Do you think that's a part of the process here?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's shifted the paradigm for just about anything anymore. You can't be a middle of the ground politician anymore. You've got to be extreme one way or the other. And of course, the other side is, just pure evil in what they want. It's not that they disagree with us. And the more retweets we get, and the more shares we get, and e- everything is just, the volume is turned up on the rhetoric so much. If we were to pass a bill in the Senate and pass a bill in the House, it would almost be like our politicians are kind of letting down their constituents. Well, you promised to not let Trump win, and now you're letting him win because it's just, yeah, we've lost sight of a lot, and it's just social media has let people get away with such awful rhetoric that I don't see how we're going to tone this down back to common sense.
Well, it goes both ways, I think, on social media because, I mean, one of the things that we've loved so much about the president right now is the fact that he has the opportunity to communicate with the American people directly. He doesn't have to go through CNN or anything like that
Yeah.
anymore. But on the
Hmm.
other side of that, then we get things like Cortez doing this from her capitalist apartment full of IKEA furniture, talking directly to the American people and not going and working with the people on the other side
Right.
and getting extremism on that. And there's a reason that she did this from Instagram Live and
Of
not
course.
going through CNN or something like that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, she's not censored. She can say whatever she wants to say, and it will reach literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people at the same time.
Almost instantly. And then you've got the
Hmm.
reviews that come after that. I love watching stories, or not stories, but Instagram live videos after the fact.
Oh, yeah, I can't do it anymore, Ed. I don't have it in me.
I don't like watching hers, but just live videos in general from other people I follow on
Hmm.
Instagram. It's so
Sure.
much easier to watch it after the fact than try to be there while they're filming it. So,
Hmm.
and I'm sure that there are millions of other Americans rather that feel the same way about that as well.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
So I talked a little bit about this in my solo video onto this, but why is she bringing this up now? Because the story about the children at the border was
Hmm.
debunked almost instantly as not being a Trump thing. I mean, yes, obviously it's still going on because we can't get any funding to change it, but
Hmm.
this was very easily debunked as an Obama era photo that was selectively chosen from Arizona, and that's what's running the narrative. But it stopped
Hmm.
being convenient for the media, and it fell out of the news pretty quickly after we got the outrage out of it. There were no retractions to be made, or if they were made, we never saw them. But this story is almost a year old at this point,
Hmm.
and she's just suddenly bringing it up now. So what is going on in the news as far as Mexico goes and the border that we need to cover up for, other than the
Hmm.
fact that the debates are coming up?
Yeah. Um, I got nothing for you, Ed. What do you think?
Well, my first thought was the fact that we've got a diplomatic win with Mexico over the tariffs because
Mm-hmm.
We're about to slap 5% tariff on everything to Mexico to
Yeah.
go up to 25% if they don't play ball, and they suddenly played ball.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's exactly what I meant to say. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because we can't have a good relationship with Mexico. We can't be doing something right with Mexico, right? It's got to be, we're just evil, and all Hispanics are in danger because of these concentration camps, right?
Oh yeah, and we will be talking a little bit more about some of the things that were said at later on in the show. But well, the other side of that too is maybe not related to Mexico necessarily, but Xi Jinping came to the table last week as well, right before this comment came out. And the day that he came to the table, they didn't even come up with an agreement yet, but the day he came to the table, the stock market just soared
Mm,
because we were starting to have, it was anticipated rather that we were going to have a talk about bringing the tariffs down and bringing business back from China.
right.
So that was another major diplomatic win that was coming out there, and now we have to go back and paint this broad brush back against the president. We can't
Yeah.
forget that he's a Nazi,
I, I can't even hear that word anymore. It's so awful because,
and it's
and
losing
I'm
so much meaning nowadays too.
well, and that's unfortunate because, there are still people living who went through, you know, I can't even imagine. And what does that word even mean anymore? Nothing.
Oh, there are still people living too that actually believe that ideology. Hard to believe enough. I was in a
I'm sure.
Discord server one day, and the whole thing got taken over by a group of 7 neo Nazis that decided they wanted to shut everybody down
Hmm.
because we didn't agree with them 100%. They're still out there.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. There's no doubt, but you can't see them through the crowd of, everybody's a Nazi if they don't agree with me. And you can't pick out the real Nazis, neo Nazis, whatever. If everybody's a racist, nobody's a racist, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's always going to be tension against Israel as well, especially going on into what else that we have going on in the news this week. And that is an escalation down in Iran, which has been one of Israel's historic biggest enemies since pretty much the beginning of Israel. And I'm
Hmm.
talking like not the British colony of Israel from the 40s. I'm talking like Abrahamic days.
Sure.
Because Iran used to be Persia, and that was another enemy of Israel back then.
Hmm.
But there's been some escalation in the Iran story in the past weeks. Um, the first thing that I put down in my notes actually was the fact that there's a lot of concern right now that Iran is ramping up their uranium production through their centrifuges and they're infusing it with heavy waters to make it weapons grade outside of the confines of the Iran nuclear deal. Now, we can't say much about the Iran nuclear deal right now in this country because we pulled out of it, but I don't know where this goes from here because, what do you do now other than sanction the hell out of them?
Well, sure. And we have. And, you know, honestly, the whole area, oh, I have a hard time talking about the Middle East. I honestly do because um, it's terrifying to me. Um, People can have these. I understand. Look, we've got nuclear weapons. A lot of people have nuclear weapons. It's just in the wrong hands. It's pretty terrifying, and I have no doubt that Iran is probably, you know, bumping their nuclear weapons up. Um, I don't I don't think there are a lot of I don't think anybody from either side is doing either side any good, as far as Trump with his freaking tweets, and I he makes me nervous too. But I don't know where I was going with that, Ed. It's just the whole situation kind of makes me really nervous. I don't trust anybody. Uh,
Well, I'm actually not as afraid of Iran as a lot of other people are because, yes, they can, with the grade of uranium that they have right now, they can make a nuclear weapon. They absolutely can.
mhm.
they have no method of delivering it short of what we did in Japan in the 40s. Fly a plane over the top and just drop it down and hope it hits the mark. They,
Okay.
they, they do not have an intercontinental missile, and I don't think China is crazy enough to sell them one.
Okay. See, that concerns me. I don't, China's another big one. I don't doubt that, this is one of those crazy conspiracy theory type things, but I don't put it past, any government to get together with another government and say, you know what, we're tired of these, bullies. Let's get her done. And they work together and get some nasty stuff done.
Well, that goes on into my next point here, and I did want to say quickly before we go on to that point, I'm not afraid of Iran because if they do any nuclear testing at all, which you have to test your nuclear weapons, you have to do it. Otherwise, you're going to drop a dud out of your plane and you're going to get your plane shot out of the air. But the second that the seismologists in Israel detect the fact that Iran is testing a nuclear weapon,
Hmm.
I have no doubt that Israel is going to bomb Iran back into the Bronze Age. They're going to go back to Persia in a hurry.
I hear you.
So
Yeah, I hear
I'm less
you.
worried about Iran than a lot of people are because I don't think Israel's going to stand for them having a nuclear weapon.
No, I hear what you're saying.
Now, Iran, however, this past week in the news did shoot down a drone that our side claims was in international airspace, and
Hmm.
Iran claims was in their airspace, and nobody seems to know what's going on. But almost instantly, before anything else, people, millennials especially, started questioning whether or not this was an actual attack or whether or not this was something that was staged to try and get us pulled into a Middle Eastern conflict.
Hmm.
And I have to say that I think a lot of these people are right. I think it's more the actors on the outside than it is the U.S. and Iran saber rattling.
You know, yeah, I tend to agree. It's a good time, right, to talk about a possible Middle Eastern war.
Hmm.
What's coming up. Everybody's trying to get their spot reserved in the election.
Hmm.
It's a good distraction, and it's a um, good for the politicians. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that it was anything more than um, just kind of people blowing it way out of proportion.
Well, I saw an interesting tweet on this topic here not that long ago that showed Hillary Clinton bobbing her head and dancing, and the writer of the tweet said, "Wouldn't you love to have this foreign policy expert sitting in the White House right now with all of this going on?"
Oh God.
And the first thing I had to say when I thought about that was the idea that no, because right now
No.
we would be sitting in a two front war with Iran and North Korea. Oh, hell. We got some
Oh,
lightning and thunder going on outside. That was a bright one.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
yeah, that one probably
Oh,
bled through the
wow.
microphone.
I heard that one.
Anyway, yeah, we would be sitting on a two front war with North Korea and Iran right now, and all of the military supply companies would be putting a sizable donation into the Clinton Foundation on the same time.
No. I just want to point out the hilarity of the lightning. As soon as you bring up Hillary in the White House, the lightning is like strike you down in church or something. Could that have been timed any better? Thank you, God.
They're going to destroy my plants. Well, there's
Anyway,
that, and and then there's, of course, obviously, the conspiracy theorists that think that Israel is behind everything, and Israel wants us pulled back into a war in the Middle East. I don't know how I feel about that because, there's the conspiracy behind it too, but then there's, the idea that That's the first thing that the neocons always bring up is Israel is our biggest ally. We need to jump down and
Mhm.
defend them. We've been jumping through hoops for Israel for 60 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, Ed. Now that I'm on the Twitter, I actually have a couple of friends who live in Israel, and I can't say that I'm against being their ally full force 100%. Um, I've seen, video of the missile strikes, like,
Mm.
you know, from their point of view, and that will never leave my head, and I just think about we have the luxury over here of not ever having to worry about that, but that's their reality. And so, yeah, I do think we need to defend Israel whenever and and however possible.
Well, this all started with that Navy video, the ship that was blowing up, and that was the first thing that people started talking about was this is staged, and it definitely looks staged. So this is obviously a developing story. There's a lot more going on to this than two people that are focused more on domestic policy would probably be able to get into. But this is something we should probably watch pretty closely. I want to take 1 second while we're in the midst of this, though, and talk about the 11th hour drawback of forces that our president did. And I think that might have sealed him with the libertarian right that wants us to be more isolationist,
Hmm.
because he put out in a tweet and he did an interview with Chuck Todd as well on or not MSNBC, just regular NBC on Meet the Press, stating that he asked how many people were going to die if they went through with this strike, and he was informed that there would be 150 people that would be killed most likely, and he did not believe that it was worth it to do that over an
Hmm.
unmanned piece of equipment. And I do have to agree with him there. I mean,
Hmm.
there's a point where yes, September 11th we wanted to go in full force, but people that were financed by Afghanistan came down and killed thousands of our people over here.
Hmm.
All Iran did was shoot down an unmanned drone that maybe cost $10 million, but what doesn't when it's government contracted?
Yeah.
And nobody else really got hurt at that point. I mean, we'll get that money back.
Hmm.
We will absolutely get that money back. So I think the president made the right decision. It wasn't worth the loss of life to go back over there and start something, especially something that could be drawn out long term. Persia is in a horrible strategic place, and we always wind up long term when we're over there.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. I think that's you know, a measured response from a president, not um, after September 11th. Obviously, it was purely reactionary, and I don't think we can afford that. So $10 million, you're right. Any government project is going to cost that. But I would expect um, the president to take into consideration even just 150 lives. That those are 150 lives. Um, considering that we didn't lose any life, I support that decision 100%. I don't I don't see how it would have been appropriate, because I'm sure, the 150 lives, like you said, it would probably lead us into,
Thousands more lives on our side and
at
their side.
least thousands. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's the same, when we were learning about things like fire safety when we were kids. Leave
Mm-hmm.
all your stuff behind and get out of the house. We can replace everything that's in the house, but we can't
Mm-hmm.
replace you.
Right.
And I think that's, material stuff can come and go. We have insurance, we can get that stuff replaced. Yes, it'll be expensive, but that puts more people into a job to replace the kind of stuff. But
Mhm. There you go. Hmm.
on the other side of that, I don't think that Barack, Hillary, John Kerry, Al Gore, HW, or
Hmm.
any of the other people out of the past would have had that same sentiment. I think we would have been over there at this point by now if it had been anybody other than our current sitting president.
Sure, I don't doubt you. I don't disagree with you one bit. Um, as I said, I think this is more a measured response. I don't. I think we're maybe more people are starting to see, that he's not necessarily. Um, Emotion does not drive this man. What makes good sense is what drives him, and he couldn't see a good outcome for any type of artillery response or whatever, however you say it. It was not a good idea, and I think you know this is just an example of the type of thing that people overlook. Orange man bad, okay, but let's get past that and look at how he comes to certain decisions. Look, he's not my favorite. I wish he would stop tweeting. There are a lot of things I don't like about the man, but I do appreciate that he's not. He doesn't pander as a little, yeah, he does, but not the way a lot of these, Democrats do, and even some Republicans. It's more about what makes sense, what's good for our country, not what's popular.
Well, speaking of people who like to pander and people who might be making the same decision here coming not next January, but the January after,
Hmm.
2020 is fast approaching as well, and there's always news in the presidential race because it changes a little bit every week. Uh, First point of news that I always want to point out, I did it last week and I'll do it this week. Somehow, I want to preface what I'm about to say. I came from a union household. I was not always conservative. I did not grow up conservative.
Hmm.
My parents are still staunchly in the camp that vote Democrat.
Hmm.
And I talk to my mom every once in a while about what's going on in there because she appreciates the fact that I look for sources outside of the mainstreams to talk
Hmm.
about this. And we were talking about the people who were getting into the race. This was a few months ago, and she said to me that uh, she has no idea how Warren is as high up as she is, and she might have to jump off the Democrat train if Warren becomes the nominee. But Elizabeth Warren continues to rise in the polls, and in several of the polls, she has surpassed Bernie Sanders at this point. In a couple
Hmm.
of them, she's within 10 points of Biden, which scares the hell out of me. But
Yeah.
I've talked a bit before about the fact that former Obama staffers, the Pod Save America bros, have been talking since Warren got in about the fact that they are, or she is the candidate rather, that they want to see in, which makes absolutely no sense to me. She has no charisma, she has no real plan, and she has no way to implement a plan. But that seems to be the consensus from inside the DNC. Um, how do you see this playing out with Warren rising in the polls like this?
I don't know. To be honest, I'm pretty surprised. You're right. She's a very awkward and really doesn't have much to run on. She's I don't know. The fact that she's approaching Biden, it's I'm kind of dumbfounded here, Ed. I'll be honest with you because I don't understand the appeal. Um, and I think I would be right along with your parents if I were a Democrat. Like what? She's interesting.
Well, it's interesting too because I mean there are no good choices right now, and a lot of what they're doing on the other side, for the most part, seem to come down to electability. But the fact that they're stabbing Biden in the back seems to
Mm,
change that entire mantra entirely. Like for the beginning of this, the first thing that we always heard of is we need to get Trump out. No matter what, no matter who the candidate is, we need to get somebody up that can beat him and get him out. Which
right.
of course comes down to the idea that we can't have a political outsider sit in the White House because this is supposed to be a coronated position.
Hmm.
I'm curious to think about the fact that since they got rid of the superdelegate system, and we have so many people across the Rust Belt that do not want to see Warren make it to the top no matter what, how do they get her to the top if that's who they decide that they want to? Because, I mean, it's no secret that the DNC doesn't always play fair with their delegates and the way that they promote somebody.
Okay. 2016, yeah. I don't know. Honestly, she needs to stay off social media. She's not young, she's not hip, and she does not know how to talk to people like a regular human being. And I'm surprised that Kamala Harris is so awkward. Anyway, back on Warren. But yeah, somebody needs to write some things for her. I mean, honestly, she needs someone to gather some coherent thoughts, find her a nice platform, and give her the show that she needs. Because I don't see it.
So you don't think that we could have the absolute charisma of, "Hello, husband, would you like a beer?"
You know what though? Honestly, Ed, after I didn't foresee Donald Trump getting elected president, and he did. And so after that, I guess anything is really possible. But no, I don't foresee. Hello, husband. No.
Well, I mean, I understand that entirely. I mean, I was on Team Fiorina when all that started going down.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
No, I was a Ted Cruzar.
I know my manager at the job I was working at the time was big into I can't think of his name, the doctor Carson.
Oh,
There
Ben
it is.
Carson?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was big into Carson, and a lot of the other people around me were into Carson, and I was
Hmm.
into Fiorina, and we wound up getting Trump.
Yeah. You know, the American dream is possible, I guess.
Well, one of the ways that they might try to push Elizabeth Warren to the top, and I noticed this when we were looking at the debate schedule coming up, is if you look at the 2 night debate schedule, Elizabeth Warren is kind of on the kids' table right now. She's on the first night, and she's paired up with people like Gabbard, Swalwell, some of the lower tier candidates that are polling in 0%. I think she is the highest polling one on the night that she's on.
Hmm.
So she's really got the chance to take the stage against people that we all kind of accepted aren't going to make it to the presidency no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think that may be part of the strategy. I know obviously coming up on the second night, they're going to have all the heavy hitters coming up. So that's going to
Hmm.
be the mainstream event. But everyone wants to go back and see Warren clean up over people that don't stand a chance against her anyway. What do you think about the debate schedule coming? Are you going to watch the debates?
I'm not. I'll probably catch some clips after the fact, but no. You don't think that Swalwell's going to give her a good run for her money at all?
No, he'll just nuke her.
Fair enough. Oh my gosh, fair enough. Yeah.
I always have that line in the ready when somebody talks about Swalwell.
Yeah, he did it to himself. So who's going to be on with Bernie? I'm sorry, I don't know.
Bernie's going to be on the big table, so he's going to be up with Biden, Kamala, Cory Booker's on the kids table, but Biden and Kamala are up there. I think Swalwell's on the big table now. Now that I think about it,
Okay. That makes more sense. And Cory Booker's going to go with Elizabeth Warren.
and go against like Gabbard, and I think
Yeah.
Yang is on the big table, but I think Gabbard's on the small table.
Okay.
De
And
Blasio, people like
that's
that.
unfortunate. I really like Tulsi Gabbard. I'd probably vote for her if I was a Democrat, to be honest with you. She seems kind of more moderate than, you know. But yeah, Cory Booker, why is he even still in it? I don't understand.
It's his Spartacus moment.
Yeah, that's past though. Didn't he turn into Farticus or
I
but yeah,
actually, I hope Jake listens to this because it'll remind him to do this. Him and I need to sit down and get my Freedom Scoop email to the point where I have credentials, login, and a link to log in from. Because once I have that, I'm going to reach out to Representative Gabbard and see if I can get her on this show. So
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Oh, I'd totally watch that one. Not that I don't watch your other ones. I'm just saying I like her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's cool. She seems to be really actually cool and not pretending to be cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
And she's turned a lot of heads over on the libertarian side of the Republican Party, too, with her isolationist platform.
Mm-hmm.
The one that
Yeah.
blows my mind is Yang. I cannot believe the traction that he has got among the young center right now with his UBI socialist ideas. I can't believe what he is pulling for numbers right now.
Um, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
That guy got a lot of traction out of nowhere, except he's hated by the DNC right now because he went on Shapiro's show. That's a
I
cardinal
don't
sin.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I think we need to do more of that, don't you? Going on some he's okay, Ben Shapiro is a hard ass conservative. Why wouldn't Democrats want to go on there?
Because the Republicans or the people that would dare to vote for Trump are not in play. We don't want those. I've had that conversation with somebody on Twitter before.
Are you serious?
We don't want the people who would cross the aisle. They're dead to us.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, anyway.
Speaking of Warren and Bernie, there was a viral photo that was going around. The first thing that I saw, the first thing that everyone saw was a guy looking very afraid, sitting next to Bernie Sanders in an airplane while he was staring out the window. And I looked at the photo right away, and the first thing that I looked at, I looked up in the corner. I said, "Is that Elizabeth Warren sitting behind him?" And sure
Behind
enough,
him.
the next morning I looked into this, and I saw more people had noticed that Warren was back there. And now the meme is Bernie sitting there saying, "Is she going to kick my seat? Is she going to kick my seat? Is she going to kick my seat?" And Warren is saying, "I'm totally going to kick his seat when he doesn't expect it."
I mean that couldn't be a better representation of the DNC nomination. I mean that's how it's seeming. Am I right?
Yeah, and the two of them too, and that's the interesting juxtaposition of the two of them on there is that they are twisting each other back and forth in the polls. They're dancing around each other as to who's in second and who's in third. So
Yeah.
that is just kind of an interesting concept, and I think Bernie believes that Warren's going to screw him the way that Hillary did, and not the
I
fun
mean,
way.
oh, I think that would be the fun way if we're talking about Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. That's disgusting. But anyway. I was hoping we'd get more silly moments out, I'm telling you. Because I'm a giggler, you know. But anyway.
One last
But
story
yeah, I
that
wouldn't be surprised if I were Bernie, I would be afraid. I can't even believe he's running again. I mean, you would think it's kind of like Hillary, he just won't go away.
honestly, I think with Bernie, I think he is. I think he's taking revenge on the DNC right now. He's running back as a Democrat again and trying to gin up his support base of college-age millennials that are swimming in debt, so he can pull votes away from whoever it is that makes the nomination. I don't think he's doing this to make it. I think this is a vendetta at this point.
Well, more power to him. I would. Go ahead, Bernie. Go ahead.
One last story that I want to touch on here before I get into the 3 20 questions that I always ask on this show.
Oh, no.
Joe Biden is taking a bit of a hit in the polls this week because it was made public, and I think we all knew this just based on his age and what was going on in Delaware and in the U.S. House and Congress in general at the time. It was shown that he was working with segregationist groups back in the 70s. And that seems to have made that seems to make some waves over in the Democrat Party, especially on the polls there. So what did you see on this so far?
Well, listen, I'm going to say the same thing that I can't believe I'm going to come to the defense of Joe Biden, but I said the same thing with Donald Trump and, pretty much anybody. I don't care what somebody did 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. I really don't. What are they standing for now? I don't believe Joe Biden is on the side of segregationists today. But you're right, back in the middle part of the last century, there were probably more racists than not. And we grow and we change. And again, I cannot believe I'm coming to his defense, but I am. I don't think that that's the same Joe Biden that we have today at all. And I think he should be judged based on how ridiculous he is at this point in his life instead of how ridiculous he was in that point.
Well, and it's a different time too. I mean, obviously,
Hmm.
you and I can't opine about what was going on in the '70s because
Sure.
if I did my math correctly, based against my age, you were probably born in '77.
76.
Okay, yeah, and I
Yeah.
was born in '84. So, I mean,
Oh,
what
you
happened in the
son.
'70s?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What happened in the '70s? Just it's not something that we can really talk about. But we've seen the
Right.
documentation. We've seen the '70s show and everything that went on about Roots. We've all seen Forrest Gump, and we all we all learned growing up what the world was like in the middle part of the last century, or in the last century, like you said. I almost said millennium there, but that would have been way too far back.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't. I mean, yeah, we can't really have much of an opinion, but that's pretty much my opinion, regardless of the person. What are they doing today?
Yeah.
And he's a lot of things, but I don't consider him to be racist.
Well, a lot of that goes back to what we were talking about when we talked about Cortez earlier in the show, because
Mm.
it's become an all or nothing thing. Whereas before, you could work with the people that you didn't agree with and try to come
Mhm.
to some kind of consensus, and we don't have that option anymore.
And right, at all, at all.
And yeah, social media is fueling some of that, and social media is what's going to be leaking some of this.
Mm, yep. That's scary.
But what it definitely does is it makes it a tighter race and a more interesting race. And as somebody who reports on the news and reports on politics in the news, I am actually okay with that. So tighten that race up as much as you want.
Yeah, I bet this is like porn for you, right? Sorry. Yeah. All right, bad joke. So 2020, yeah.
So when we move out of the 2020 topic, I always ask my guests three questions based on how they see the field, because it's interesting to see how statistics change from week to week and how opinions change from guest to guest. So, on the
Mhm.
current field of Democrats, statistically, based on what we've seen in the last week and the polls up until now, who do you think from the DNC makes it to the end based on the data that we have today?
I don't know what data you have today, but are we talking just one person? Like who's going
Statistically,
to make
which
the nomination?
who's the nominee statistically, based
Oh,
on what you see from the data right now?
um, Biden.
Because he's still leading, most likely.
I mean, yeah, and I just see him as a more reasonable. He talks a way better game than anybody else does.
Okay. Second question:
Mm.
if you have to have a Democrat president, you don't get a choice out of the next election. Out of the current field of Democrats, who is the Democrat that Linda wants to see as president?
Oh, yeah, I said Gabbard, without
Okay.
a doubt. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think she'd be a cool, first lady president. I don't necessarily care too much if there's an R or a D or an I next to somebody's name. But she just seems more moderate than anybody. I could deal with her. She's cute too.
So the last question, and this is, I think, what's going to be the best for the fact that you wanted the light moments out of this. Out of pure
Mm,
entertainment value, which
mhm.
candidate from the current pool of Democrats that are running right now do you want to see on the debate stage across from Donald Trump, trading insults with him?
God. Oh, Oh, that's hard. Honestly, it's going to be a tie between Liz Warren and Eric Swalwell. I think it would be so hilarious to watch either of them. Um, Gosh, he would just. I think it. Okay, I'm just going to say Elizabeth Warren because I don't think she has it in her to come back at him with as much fire as he's got. So yeah.
Do you think Warren could be possibly put on the air and saying, "Back off, you creep"?
Uh, Next question.
Because let's face it, she basically is Hillary Light at this point.
Okay. Extra light, extra virgin olive oil there. Yeah. I'm sorry, Hillary, at least she could, insult you. I don't see Elizabeth Warren doing anything but hey, you know, well, like not she doesn't say anything for God's sake. She just sighs and yeah. So
I am so glad she wasn't in the Senate when I lived in that state.
ugh,
But I have a
yeah.
lot of friends that live under her representation, so.
Well, good luck to them.
So we've talked about one side of the aisle as far as campaigning goes, but this past week, Donald Trump kicked off his campaign, which never really ended, but he's officially kicked off his campaign with a major rally down in Florida. Now, you're a lot closer to Florida than I am, so you probably understand what the humidity and the heat is like down there. But there were people that were camping out in Orlando for 2 days waiting to get into this thing.
Hmm.
I believe the last numbers that we had were that the stadium had 100,000 people inside and 20,000 people outside watching on a jumbotron as well. Um, there were a lot of good speaking moments out of this, but of course the media spin came out to say that people were leaving at or before the end. After they had been sitting around camping for 2 days outside of this thing.
Hmm.
So, what did you see on all of this?
Look, he's a rock star. I mean, people want to go see him. He was here in Charlotte. Um, I don't remember if it was 2017 or probably 2016. I don't remember, but um, it's unreal. He's just a rock star. Everybody wants to go. And of course, after camping out for 2 days, so what if people leave early? Have you ever seen the inside of a Trump rally? I mean, I would liken it to I went to see Aerosmith in concert when I was years old, and yeah, it's just as crowded. The energy is just as high, and spin it any way you want to spin it. You can't recreate that kind of energy on the Democratic Party. Sorry.
No, you can't. Well, I mean, part of that is that their support is spread so far, but once again, yeah, you're not pulling in some of these same numbers to any one of the candidates right now. I mean,
Yeah.
what did Abrams have behind her when she gave her counter to the State of the Union? Wasn't it like 20 people and then they closed the camera in to make it look like it was a full crowd?
I'm
Did
sorry.
you see
Who?
that picture?
Yeah, I did. It's ridiculous. Oh,
The rightful governor of Georgia.
absolutely. We need to just hand that over to her. And by the way, let's just, switch swatch Hillary out for Trump. And, she won the popular vote. So,
The popular vote.
yes.
What do you think about this compact that's going throughout the states that, first off, it's completely illegal because interstate commerce has to go through Congress. But this compact where all these states are signing on saying, we will get enough states to get 270 electoral votes, and then whoever the popular vote goes to will become the president for the rest of time.
Yeah, I I just have to wonder, do these people ever stop to think about why the Constitution was written the way it was? I mean, people weren't sneaky back in the 18th century, but sure they were. Sure they were. What is it? Isn't that called, what's that called?
I'm not sure what you're looking for.
Of course, Ed. Isn't that carpetbagging?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Didn't want to seem stupid. But yeah, that's come on. Yeah, of course it's illegal, but there's really not much these people won't do to try to um unfairly win
Or at least retain the power.
something.
Now, I want to talk about another number that came from this Trump rally, and that's because these same numbers kept coming up when everybody else announced their candidacy. I'm trying to think who went first. Bernie Sanders broke a campaign record when he announced his candidacy because he raised $5.9 million in the first day.
Hmm.
And then Beto O'Rourke broke his record because he raised $6.2 million in the first day, in the first 24 hours.
Okay.
And then Biden went back and broke his record because he raised, I think it was $6.8 million in the first 24 hours. In the first 24 hours since Trump announced that he was going to run again as the president and kicked off his campaign, he raised $25.2 million in 24 hours.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
That's true. Wow. I mean, I'm not surprised, but that's a wow. Well, shoot. I mean, we were all going to fund the border through a GoFundMe, so I guess it really shouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, it comes from the idea that, yes, we have an isolationist again, as we talked about with the Iran thing, but we've
Hmm.
got a money president again for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah.
Definitely since I was a baby, because I think that was the last time we had a real money president.
Yeah. It's kind of exciting to see.
So now that all these other people have the money in their pockets, they want to give some of it back to the person that they see as being responsible for having the money in their pockets. And to an extent, I think they're right. I mean, they're with all the infighting in Congress and the fact that they haven't passed anything, like you said. Who else do we look to say, "Hey, this is why I can buy my first house. This is why I can buy a new truck."
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
else do we turn to at that? So, I mean, that's people are reproducing more. People are buying houses. There are lots that are going up that were zoned for other stuff that are being going for residential because they need to be able to build because they don't have enough nice houses for anybody anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we want this to continue. We don't want to put somebody into office that will jeopardize the good thing we have going now.
And there are a lot of people right now that are running that will. Do you
Yeah.
do you think whoever the nominee is gets the popular vote? Because I'm right on the fence of that personally right now.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I think it matters who it is. Um I don't know. I'm going to say no. I don't think so. I mean, don't hold me to it obviously, but I don't see it. I
No,
think
we're still
I
really early in the cycle. I won't hold you to anything.
well yeah, but I think that the number of look at the number of money he's raised. I think the number of people that are more content in their lives today, no matter, I think they're just going to outnumber. I think Trump will still get the popular vote.
That'd be an interesting thing to see. I hope to see that.
Well, yeah, me too.
But speaking of things that the president has followed through on, and part of the reason that he has such a high following, the president tweeted out this past week that the border enforcement and ICE is going to be going through the country and they are going to start deporting millions of people. Now, he did announce this in a tweet, so we can take all of this with a grain of salt, but it does appear that this has started and raids have begun. First off, What do you think about the idea of announcing your domestic policy in a tweet?
Yeah, like I said, I wish he would tweet a lot less. I wish a staffer, somebody could handle that for him. No, I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose if it's a raid, you
Yeah.
know, but
Well, I know what they wanted to start doing, and Shapiro was talking about this on his show today. Was they want to start with people who are just that are documented that were here legally, overstays, um, expired visas, expired vacation visas, just simple stuff like that. Not people who expressly tried to sneak into this country without any paperwork. So,
yeah.
at that point, you actually have the chance too to get these people down in a court and have them redo their paperwork or do it the right way, and maybe set an example for some of the other people that are out here completely without any sort of paperwork.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I mean, I guess, well, yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know that that's enough time to get your shit in order, stuff in order. To get a continuation on your visa or what have you. But if it is, then yeah, I guess that's a good idea.
Now, I was looking for this news story a bit earlier today, but I couldn't find it again. This past weekend, an Arizona politician had tweeted out to try and warn people. I do want to talk a little bit about the tweets that politicians are putting out here in a second, but a politician tweeted out to try and warn people that ICE was going to come in and raid a certain neighborhood on a Sunday.
Hmm.
And then ICE came out and raided that neighborhood on Saturday.
Yikes. I didn't read that story, but I can only imagine how it turned out. Why
Well,
don't you tell me?
I can only speculate a little bit on it because I couldn't find it for verification. But this is actually
Mhm.
the second time I've seen a story like this, because when Trump became president, when he was first inaugurated, there was another set of stories like this where ICE was getting aggressive. They were going to start making raids, and politicians in California, I believe it was, were warning everybody that they were going to make these raids, and then they were coming on a completely different day.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, yeah, you kind of want it to be. I don't agree with the whole idea of raids for, anything but a drug bust, really. But yeah, I mean, if it's going to be a raid, you kind of want the surprise element,
Yeah.
right?
Well, there's another idea that's going along with this, and this will be before we get into the Candace Owens and Eric Swalwell stuff. But there have
Mm,
been a series of Democrat politicians and just other social media figures in general who have been talking now about trying to advise people who are on the cusp of being deported on how
mm-hmm.
to deal with ICE and what their rights are. And Charlie Kirk put up an interesting point about this, saying that these politicians shouldn't be supporting lawlessness and they shouldn't be doing this. But on the other side of this, the politicians that are tweeting this and the personalities that are tweeting this, things like ICE can't come into your house without a warrant. You shouldn't open the door without a warrant. Don't answer any questions without a lawyer. These are all rights that are enumerated in the Constitution. Charlie Kirk says, no, don't promote lawlessness if you're a sitting congressman, which I can agree to that to some extent. But
Mm-hmm.
the other end of that argument is the idea of where do these rights come from? One of the biggest parts of the conservative movement that I've seen so far is that we've come to a consensus that our rights are not government given, they are God given, and basically what we have for rights limits the power of the government. So if
Mm-hmm.
we turn around and don't extend these same rights to illegal aliens, we're essentially saying that the government is now the provider of these rights instead of them being God given and the rights limiting the government. And I tweeted a reply back that said, I said just exactly that. And I said, don't give a government the power to endow you your rights that doesn't deserve that power.
100% agree with you, absolutely. And I took a few government classes in college a few years ago, and this subject came up. And yeah, it's kind of the backbone of the conservatives. These are not rights given to us by government. They're merely protected by our government. And they are anyone who is here, legally or not, anyone on this soil is protected by those rights. And I mean, I don't want any government telling me what my rights are. I just want them there to protect somebody else from denying me my rights.
Well, the
And I
first
think
time
we need to afford that to anybody on this country.
Well, the first time I thought about this too came when we were talking about the Kate Steinle case. That was the very first time I thought about any of this because there was so much outrage on Facebook and Twitter at the time saying that the guy that shot Kate Steinle should not have got a lawyer. And the first thought I had was, why not?
Who said that?
A lot of people on a lot of
No,
different social platforms.
that's ridiculous. I mean, I'm sorry. The worst of the worst and the best of the best are granted the same rights regardless.
Well, you're illegally in our country. You shouldn't get a lawyer. You shouldn't get the same protections as U.S. citizens.
I don't agree.
Yeah, that kind of takes away from the thought of God given.
You're right. That's 100% correct.
But of course, speaking about tweets from Democrat politicians as to what to do about Hispanics, Eric Swalwell decided that he was going to come to Twitter and talk about some of this. So let's have a look at what Swalwell had to say.
Mm.
You can't see on the screen because we don't have video share up here, but
Mm.
up on the screen, Swalwell tweets, "If you're Hispanic, there's nothing that real Donald Trump won't do to break up your family, cage your children, or erase your existence with a weaponized census." Three things that I've talked about on my solo videos before, by the way. And there's nothing that we won't do in the streets, courts, and at the ballot box to stop him. Families belong together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. That's cool, Eric. I mean, let's incite some fear into people and blow some bull crap out of proportion. How about Hispanic families absolutely do belong together? The citizens of this country and the citizens of whatever country, the people migrating here are coming from, if they want to stay together in your country, because the Hispanics here who live here, who are citizens here, I'm pretty sure that they're nice and cozy together as a family in their own country, right? I don't like the idea of any politician trying to incite fear an entire population of people based on a fallacy. It's crap.
Well, I want to take a second and look at, too, the wording of all of this, because the way that he worded it, it's not if you're an illegal alien. It's not if you're from any nationality. Asian, he doesn't bring up anything like that. It's automatically Hispanic. Sure. And he doesn't bring up any sort of status like that. So the way that he's wording it makes me think that he's trying to convince people that that legal immigrants are going to be coming down on all of this as well. Excuse me.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to think people are smarter than that. But I mean, honestly, if you're in a foreign country and you're not necessarily up on, you're not fluent in English. I mean, yeah, I can see where that would be pretty damn scary, legal or illegal.
Yeah, because he just says if you're Hispanic. So of course he's injecting the race right into this. The party of non-racism.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
And of course I have to wonder, because it's Swalwell and because we talked about this once already, he says there's nothing we won't do in the streets. Does that include launching off one of those ICBMs on the wall?
Yeah, nuke 'em Swalwell.
I know he's not going to become president because he is never going to live that down.
Oh my gosh, right? Can you imagine the bumper stickers?
Well, you brought up another tweet out there. I don't know if you have that handy up on the notes here, but I'm going to bring that up on the screen here. And that came from Candace Owens. And I wanted you to kind of
for a while, just to put that out there. I've seen this video before, but she tweeted it and it kind of reminded me of it.
Well, I'll read it, and then I want you to bring up kind of where you thought this fit all into this. I kind
Hmm.
of see where you're going, but since this was your topic, I want you to lead on that. So Candace Owens tweeted out, "Sanctuary cities are racist. The black community has literally been destroyed by a racist illegal immigration. When black people commit a crime, they get 3 strikes. When illegal aliens commit crimes, they get amnesty and benefits. It's over. Thank God for Trump. At AOC hashtag Blexit," which probably didn't need to be in there, but tell us why you wanted to have this in the show notes here. Where does this lead us?
Well, I mean, inside that tweet was a very powerful video um, by a black woman in I don't know how to say it, Cudahy, California. It's part of Los Angeles County, so they were a sanctuary city, but it was basically talking about exactly that. Um, you know, there are so many protections in place for illegal aliens from south of the border. When black people commit crimes, they get punished. When and they're taxpayers, and then illegals commit crimes, they get amnesty and benefits, and they don't pay any taxes. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of outrage, and this black woman, she said it very beautifully and from the heart. um, Talk about racist. You guys are trying to set, the black people behind people who don't even aren't supposed to be here. You're taking your citizens and treating them like crap while you're trying to give all the benefits and benefit of the doubt to illegal aliens. The black community is trying to lift itself up, and you know these sanctuary cities are, and most of the Democratic Party is trying to lift illegals up, which, I mean, where does that leave the black community?
Well, yeah, I mean the black community too. It's in play right now. It's not necessarily a given Democrat vote anymore like it used to be. And
Yeah,
if you
they've got to
just
work for it.
and if you just give amnesty out to these illegals, that becomes your permanent vote.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't see how they're confident enough um, to lose so many black votes. And I see that they have. I mean, I don't have uh, you know tens of thousands of followers, but I do have some, and a lot of them are strong conservative, formally Democratic men and women who are tired of the flip floppy Democrats who don't want to do anything for um, the black community in the United States, and they're just jumping ship for the conservative party because Donald Trump is giving them jobs and lowering their taxes and giving them stability in their lives, and the Democrats are just wanting to support people who don't even live here. Sorry, it makes me really it's so frustrating, not just for me. I'm a white lady. I have it pretty good. I'm pretty privileged. Um, but it angers me. I can't imagine how much it would anger a minority in this country, especially legal immigrants who've done all the hard work, and people who are doing financially much better under this president, that the Democratic Party doesn't really give a crap about them, and they just want illegals for votes. I don't know. That's not yet proven, but why? For what?
Well, it may not necessarily also be for the illegal vote, but I mean, what are the illegals that get the amnesty going to tell their kids who are
Mhm.
citizens out here?
Yeah,
Oh, if you don't vote for this guy, I'm going back to Mexico.
yeah, or wherever.
I say, yeah, that's not even really the stereotype anymore because as we saw from the caravan, a lot of the immigration isn't coming from Mexico. It's Honduras and Guatemala, and they're getting on the
Mm.
caravan and trying to storm the border.
Well, sure. I mean, I mean, we've advertised that the southern border is open. Come on in, so they can come from anywhere, and just anticipate a smooth arrival. It's our own fault. We did this to ourselves. I mean, we've got a president who's trying to fix it. For how many decades have we been talking about this broken immigration system? And now all of a sudden Donald Trump is trying to fix it and he's a racist.
Well, and
It's
that's a part of the problem too, because he's actually trying to fix it, so they
Mhm.
won't have that to campaign on anymore.
Oh, darn. I don't know. Politics is so exhausting, Ed. I'm just going to be honest with you. This is exactly why I dropped AOC. I can't even, it makes me so exhausted. But
Yeah, I know.
anyway,
I do it. I do this every week.
I don't know why, but I'm glad you do.
Well, we've got one more story here talking
This is a
about the.
juicy one. I want to get to this one. Absolutely. Yeah.
So late on Friday, a woman came forward after 20 years of course to accuse the president. This wasn't just sexual assault this time. This was straight up rape. She
Hmm.
said that he actually penetrated her.
Mm.
The story got dismissed almost immediately out of everything, but it's kind of interesting to see where this all came from, where this started, and what else is going on outside of this. So, what do you know about this so far?
Um, I know that Miss Carroll um, has decided to tell her, horrific story after 20 years. Um, and I've seen, my first question obviously is, why are you doing this now, sweetheart? And she addressed some of that, like why she didn't do it in 2016, because she was terrified and the lawyers would come after her and all that stuff. But I would have immediately. I don't understand this. Let's wait until somebody's doing something, and then we'll accuse them at that point. This is whatever. It's a nice distraction, though.
Well, she also has a book coming out next week.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, I know she had a book. About what? What's the book about?
I don't know, but I know that it's been slated to come out next week for a while, and I had never heard
Doesn't
of this
she?
person before. Apparently, she's a
Mhm.
pretty well-known sex columnist.
Yeah, sex advice columnist. Thank you very much. That's the word I was looking for. Come on, I got to get a little bit of salacious in here. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, apparently she's been out there for a while. I don't read sex advice columns, so I had no idea who she was, but apparently she's pretty well known. But the other side of this as well is this is not the first accusation that she's brought forward.
Hmm.
Prominently in the news, she has another accusation against Les Moonves, who has also adamantly denied this. But according to Shapiro again today, there have been quite a few other accusations that this woman has put forward, and almost all of them have been immediately dismissed.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if she needs the sex advice instead of giving it, because maybe she's just not sure. She's just not sure, Not that rape is sex. Please understand, I'd never say that. I'm just being, um, funny. But yeah, the more accusations that you have that prove not to be credible, I've got to wonder. Oh, sweetheart. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let's go over the details of what's going on with this, in case anybody out there doesn't know, because it fell out of the news pretty quickly.
Mm.
Apparently, Miss Carroll was. She met Donald Trump in 1995 in a
Mhm.
department store, and they were going lingerie shopping, and he insisted that she should try some of the lingerie on. And she, in turn, insisted that he try some of it on as well. And they went into the dressing room together, at which point he pinned her hands against the wall and vertically entered her.
Okay.
Just the physics of all of that makes it just confuse the hell out of me to begin with. Because I mean, I've
Well,
tr-
I can see it. Yeah, I can see it. I've been in a dressing room before. Um, sorry. Just yeah. I don't. No comment. Sorry.
well, I mean, it just seems like the physics would be difficult. I mean, I've tried in a shower before, and that was completely consensual. And you still have trouble getting your body angles, especially when there's a significant height difference between your partner. Now, throw in the fact that this is a person who is struggling and trying to get away at the same time.
Sure. I'm sure her legs weren't at all wrapped around him.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Come on. You've got a voice, ma'am. I'm sure somebody would have heard you.
Well, that's the other thing too. Just the arms are pinned out, so there's no hand sitting out there to.
Right.
Yeah, just I cannot wrap my head around the physics of the way that this was all described. Mackenzie from Mac and Liberty brought up a decent point, though, talking about this. The fact that, yes, this is another accusation that came forward 20 years later, seemingly out of nowhere, with no context to come before that. And this has shadowing back to the Kavanaugh accusations and many of the other accusations that were laid against Trump before, because no matter what, I mean, neither one of us is a lawyer, neither one of us is a judge, but we were able to cast reasonable doubt against this almost immediately as soon as we started talking about this. And I'm
Mhm.
sure that any lawyer of the president's, because he has a lot of money, would be able to do the same thing. So this
Mhm.
would be thrown out as reasonable doubt almost instantly. But there was no intention to have this make it to a courtroom. This can't get arraigned, no matter how far it goes, and it can't survive a jury trial, no matter how hard a lawyer tries. But this is meant to bring something forward into the court of public opinion, where there is no lawyer and there is no jury. You're
Mhm.
determined guilty or innocent based on the story, based on how the story makes other people feel and who you are, almost
Mhm.
instantly.
Yeah. It is very reminiscent of Kavanaugh, isn't it? Um, because rape, sexual assault, uh, any assault, um, it's against the law and should be handled in the courts. And I don't think 20 years later you're doing anything but trying to smear someone's reputation. And I think that should be just as illegal as the crime they're accused of. If I'm being honest, because look at Kavanaugh.
Hmm.
Look at what they did to that poor man.
I
I
know.
mean, yeah, his reputation. Let's pretend he didn't get confirmed for a second, and he went back to being. Do you not feel like his judgeship would have been called into question? Everything that he would not be allowed to coach the kids, whatever basketball teams anymore. He had to quit the teaching thing, didn't he?
Yeah, his
I
life
don't
would
know.
be over. His
Yeah.
professional life would be done at that point.
Absolutely. And I mean, I get the president is the president, but yeah, I mean, there are still some people who are enjoying their lives that do give a crap about, the reputation of our president. And maybe, you overlook one or maybe you overlook two, but man, this guy's had a lot of people accuse him of this. Maybe it's time to stop supporting him or something.
Hmm.
There are a lot of trains of thought here, but I don't think this is why is this the norm anymore? Honestly, you didn't report it when it could have been handled legally.
Nor
Why do
did
you
you go
get
to the
to
police either,
report it?
because there's no statute of limitation on rape in New York.
Is that true?
Yes, there's no statute of limitation up there for that.
Crap, that wasn't true when I lived there. But anyway, yeah, that's crazy. Well, and that was true for what's her face too, Blasey Ford in whatever state that was. Dang, I can't
That was
remember
Maryland.
anything. Maryland, yeah, there's no statute there either.
Yes, there is.
But no, that's what they were talking about
I thought that there
during,
was. I thought it was
during that
15
whole
years or
thing.
whatever.
Well, that's neither here nor there anyway. I maybe I'm wrong, but regardless, that's a long ass time.
Yeah.
15 years, you know? But sure, she's trying to get her name out there to sell her book. But I don't agree with this whole you can just come out and accuse somebody publicly of something that you have no intention of bringing through a legal system and just leave it out there because it's not the job of anymore of people to prove someone's guilt. People are have to now prove their own innocence in the court of public opinion.
Hmm.
That's impossible. That's impossible.
Absolutely. The court of Twitter seems to be more in line with the court of 18th century England, or even before that, than it is with our current system of legal. I don't know where I was going with
Definitely
that, but yeah.
more blood. Let's do it. Anyway.
And I don't want to be that kind of guy, but honestly, the thought was brought up because Trump had a mistress at the time. Was it Marla?
Hmm.
I think it was.
Marlon Bagels, yeah.
Yeah, who was smoking hot at the time. And they showed the picture of what this lady looked like at the time. And I mean,
Oh gosh.
I don't want to be that guy, but I would probably be that guy if this was
Well,
any other situation.
yeah. Oh, well, Ed, were you not that guy when we saw a picture of Christine Blasey Ford at the at 16? I was. I was that guy. I won't deny it. But let's can I just set something real straight real quick?
What's up?
Okay. Just so people understand the page of the book that I'm reading. Okay. Rape has zero to do with sex. Rape is violence. Rape is power. Rape is control.
Hmm.
So looks have nothing to do with it.
That's
But
understandable.
but yes, you know, when you're talking about these things that have no credibility, there's no possible way to prove them. You do kind of have to look at the person as, you know, the situation is it's kind of a parody of its own. So you can put things like that out there, like, you know, really he's got Marlon Maples at home. And why would he bother?
Marla Maples
So
and Ivana.
yeah, totally. So I just want to make that clear that, you know, something like this, I would not give any credibility to. That's why I'm okay joking about it, because I don't feel like it has anything to do with the rape. This is this woman trying to get famous. So I'm okay with saying that, yeah, she wasn't attractive enough to get the attention of Donald Trump to bang her in a dressing room. How's that? I said bang.
Maybe they'll sponsor me at some point.
Good luck with that, sir.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I have for this show here. That was kind of a darker topic than I wanted to go out on, but because we always end the show on a positive note here, I've got one last question for you about you. And
Okay.
I want you to describe to us a hobby that you have that has nothing to do with politics or work. It could be an album that you're listening to, a book you've picked up, an instrument that you like to play, just something that helps you unwind and brings you joy in such a negative world.
Okay. Well, I will tell you, I am an avid couponer. I am that one. Um, I've got this shirt, and on the back it says I have a coupon for every product in my cart. Go to another lane. So yeah, I'm one of those people. But I enjoy it, and I like saving money and all that stuff. But you know, I do good with it. I sell um, products that I buy for like pennies um, at a really discounted price to single moms in the community. I have a little store that I open on Saturdays, and you know, I've shown pictures before, but it's like wall to wall paper towels, toilet paper, detergent, you know, body wash, everything that you could need, because those things are expensive. And couponing is a lot of time, a lot of energy, but I enjoy it. And a lot of these single moms don't have time for all that. So they come to me and, I can get them their stuff for a heck of a lot cheaper than the Walmart. But it's like a game for me, so I really enjoy doing it, trying to top myself how little I can spend every week, but I also get to do good with it, and so that makes me feel good.
Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks to the audience for watching this. I hope we welcome some new people in because of the guest. That's always an exciting part for this. And of course, if you want to finish the conversation, you can follow me on Twitter. That is at edsblog Twitter with a 1 in place of the I. You can always email me. That's edsblog Twitter. I'm working on getting my Minds and my Gab back up and running, so that'll become an option going forward. If you want to continue the conversation with Linda, why don't you tell us where they can find you?
Cool. So I'm at by_AOC on Twitter. And actually, you can find my website at budgetnerds.club. That's the affiliate website I was talking about. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at Budget Nerds page.
Just tell us a bit about that.
Well, I did a little bit. It's I'm an affiliate for Amazon mostly and some other stores, and I can get you great deals on Amazon products. I've got codes for different products. The sellers contact me with discounted prices on clothes and drills and toys, just pretty much anything that you can imagine. If you visit us at budgetnerds.club, not .com, because that's something else entirely, or at Budget Nerds page on Twitter. And I'll put that out in a tweet too. But yeah, you can see what we're all about. Our projects will be getting kind of bigger in the next few months. Hopefully we'll expand and get a few more stores on board. Kohl's, Penny's, different stores like that. But if you're looking for good online deals, if you shop online, if you shop Amazon, come check us out because I can probably get you a better deal.
And that will, of course, all be linked down in the description below. And while you're going down in that description to go and look at that, because that's a great deal, if you're on YouTube, you're passing by that subscribe button and that like button, so why don't you take a second and hit both of those. And that's going to be the same on BitChute. Hit both of those. That helps YouTube tell other people what they should be watching. Once again, if you are listening back to this back on an audio platform, thank you for the support on that. Hit that subscribe button on your audio platform, and if you like what you hear, hit that 5-star rating over there on iTunes and give us a good review. If you don't, email me again at edsblogtwitter@gmail.com, and we'll see what we can do to improve all of this. Lastly, of course, Edsworld is affiliated with the Freedom Scoop Media Group. You can find all of my content over there. My solo videos appear over there, and this show appears over there as well, along with great contributions by other writers and other podcasters. Make sure you check us out over there. As we always say on Edsworld, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Linda, you have last word.
Oh, wow. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. And I do want to give a shout out to my hoe at Gypsy Glutton, and to my row at Peach_appraiser. That's my best friend and my boyfriend.
Thanks, everybody, and take care.